Welcome to the X Corner. I'm here adding a little mutation to the Superhero Crew. This episode, we do a deep dive on the 5th and final issue of the new X-Men miniseries Extermination, and the follow-up issue, The Exterminated number 1. Spoilers, of course. Extermination number 5 of 5, written by Ed Brisson, art by Pepe Larraz. Last issue? Oh, those many years ago it seems. The X-Men were surrounded by hounds, and young Cyclops was impaled. But obviously it was Mimic who was killed, and Cyclops wants some revenge. The creepy French kids are turning everyone into hounds. They touch, though, so the fight isn't going well for the X-Men. There's an epic battle, but soon the writing's on the wall, and Kid Cable tells young Jean to collect the time-displaced X-Men because they're going back, and it's the only way to fix this. So Kid Cable takes the young OG X-Men and teleports them out. Instead of going back in the past, though, he goes to the future X-Mansion, where the soon-to-be creepy French kids are just innocent students. Jean is sent in to find out how their powers work, so as to counteract them in the past. Ahab has tracked him, though, and the rest of the team has to hold him back until she gets the info. Cyclops destroys Ahab's ship, so he can't time travel anymore, and Jean gets the info. Kid Cable sends the time-displaced X-Men back to their original time, and he grabs Ahab and brings him back to the present. He then blasts Ahab's cyber arm off for good measure. The young X-Men have to get their minds wiped, but Jean put in a time release so that old Jean would know how to defeat the creepy French kids. They wipe their minds, and all is set right. In the present, Jean is one of the few X-Men left, and she uses the knowledge young Jean gave her to free all the hounds, except Rachel, who was a hound from before. Ahab teleports away with Rachel and is now stuck in this time. Kid Cable pledges to go and get him, and is off too. We then have some funerals, and all the original X-Men have their younger counterparts' memories now. Back with Kid Cable, we see him getting a few bottles from the fridge. He goes to report success to someone, and we see it's Cyclops, his dad, the older, resurrected version. Finally, Extermination is wrapped up, and it was really good. The lateness did tarnish it a bit, but there was enough surprises to make it still fun. Unfortunately, the return of old Cyclops has been all over the comic news, so that would have been much better of a surprise otherwise. I like the fact that the young X-Men live on in the older counterparts' memories. I also like that Kid Cable is still kicking around. There was a great panel where a hounded up Gabby is jumping at Domino, and she says, "I'm not going to be the one to kill Honey Badger." She knew I'd never forgive her. The art here was especially great. I don't know if it was the reason for the delay, but Pepe Larraz knocked it out of the park anyways. If this series had come out on time, it may have gotten a 10. The fact that we pretty much knew what had gone on in general, and that Cyclops is back, did take it down a notch, but not much. It still gets a 9 out of 10. I think it would have been a modern classic, right up with Messiah Complex and House of M, and maybe in time we'll forget about the lateness and rank it better. Then we get Exterminated number 1. This is the epilogue book to Extermination, and has 2 stories. The first is a Hope and Jean tale written by Lonnie Nadler and Zach Thompson with art by Neil Edwards. Hope is obviously upset that her father died, and Jean tries to console her. She first pushes Jean away, but Jean says they're family. Jean is technically the clone of Hope's adoptive father's mother, but who's counting? The two go off on an adventure to clean up Cable's old bases. They first go to New York City base and find Deadpool rummaging around. Hope assumes he's stealing her father's stuff and attacks, but Jean separates them and Deadpool explains that he knew Cable longer than Hope has been alive, and he had a pact with him that whomever died first, the other would clean out his stuff so the enemies couldn't get info on their loved ones. He also wanted Cable's coffee mug to remember him by. The two women continue on cleaning out Cable's bases until they get to Alaska, right outside where Hope was found. Hope laments she's starting to forget what Cable looked like, and is going through grief. She finds what she's looking for, though, a time travel device that she intends to use to go back and save Cable. Jean says that her father wouldn't want her to do that, since there would be dire consequences messing with time like that. Jean takes the device from her, and Hope attacks her, but Jean just lets her beat her TK shields until she collapses crying. Hope knows Jean is right and destroys the device. She asks Jean for a favor, though, and Jean makes Hope remember what Cable looked like the day he found her, so she can always remember his face. This was a touching tale of grief, and it rang very true. Having lost a parent, I felt Hope's emotions. Nadler and Thompson captured that feeling perfectly. This was a very nice send-off to Cable, and even though we have Kid Cable still, this was a fitting finale. 8 out of 10. The next story is one about Cyclops and Corsair by Chris Claremont with art by Ramon Rosales. It takes place just after the future Cable was born. Cable narrates a story about his father, not sure about his wife Madeline, who later turns out to be a clone of his ex and future Goblin Queen, and their newborn baby. Cyclops came from an orphanage where he always felt he was unwanted, and isn't sure if he can handle being a father. Corsair takes him on a walk, and they have a heart-to-heart. He explains that he thought Scott and Alex had died, and after their mother had died, he started a new life with the Starjammers. Scott thinks about his new life with the X-Men, who he had just left at this point. Then there's an earthquake, and Madeline is trapped under a tree. Scott leaps to her rescue and realizes that this is where he needs to be. The Earth then falls out from under them, and Scott has to save them like he did himself and his baby brother when his powers first developed. Scott and Maddie and the baby Nate are happy at the end, even if it is short-lived. This was just like reading the backup stories I read in Classic X-Men as a kid, and I loved it. Classic X-Men was a reprint series of the second team's X-Men run, and every issue had a new backup giving a little more depth to the events in the original series. These backups fleshed out the series even better than I would have gotten reading the original, and they shaped how I liked my X-Men. This epitomized that. Written by the man who wrote those backups back in the day, and even the Rosanna's art reminded me of them. This story fits in perfectly in that split second in time between Cable's birth to soon after Jean being resurrected and Cyclops leaving his family for her. Knowing that, this was a bittersweet tale. We see that for a split second, there was love there, but it soon would be shattered. These are stories Chris Claremont should be writing, and if he went back and did the whole series just doing the in-between episodes of his entire run, I would be all in. This is right in my wheelhouse and getting a 9 out of 10. Thus ends the Extermination series. It was great, and I know I keep saying it, but those delays really hurt it. For an old school X-Men fan though, it hit on every cylinder. Now back to our regular scheduled X Corner.